Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and I'm here to help you reach your potential as a leader and a human being. Welcome to Remarkable TV and the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. In today's episode, we're talking about learning, specifically social and peer learning. Are you ready? Let's get started. One of the things that differentiates us as humans from the other life forms on the planet is our ability to learn deeply, to learn broadly. And so many of us think of learning as being sort of related to school or perhaps to reading. So we lump learning into reading and school, and the research all says that lots of people don't do a lot of reading after school, and many of us didn't love school. That's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about social and peer learning. So let's say a little bit more about both of those things. First of all, social learning is a theory that was formulated by a guy named Albert Bandura. And what I'm about to do is to summarize it in about 2 sentences, which is far different than the full theory. But basically what Bandura says, that in the right circumstances, we can learn a lot simply by observing others. And then, of course, practicing it and more. But fundamentally, the big idea here is learning by observation. And so examples of that would include things like learning from others in a meeting. Like I'm watching other people, how they interact in a meeting, and I replicate that. I learned from my observation. How to carry yourself in any kind of situation, or perhaps how to do any kind of task when you can watch someone else and then do it based or learn from what you saw someone else do. Okay. Now, peer learning is learning from observation, but I'm going to take this from the perspective of the workplace just a little bit more and include things like I can learn from my peer in an on-the-job training situation. I can learn from my peer in a peer coaching situation, just from conversations, etc. Right? So the big idea that I want to talk about today is whether we're talking about social learning or peer learning, that we be intentional in doing it, because it's a powerful way for us to learn. But if we just let it happen because it happened, well, that's cool. If we can be intentional about it, then we can really amp up our ability to learn more, to learn faster, to learn at deeper levels, et cetera, et cetera. It's a way for us to get better, differentiate ourselves in the workplace, reach our goals, and 100 other things. So I want to talk about this intentionality in 2 ways, both organizationally and personally, some very specific things that you can do to be more intentional in your social and peer learning. First of all, organizationally. Well, we can make sure that we incorporate into training things like chances for people to interact. We think about that in training like having a breakout group or people having the chance to work through something and talk through something. That's the chance for peer learning. It's extremely powerful. But organizationally, we can go beyond a training event and add things to the training event, like the chance to have a learning partner or peer learning. We do that lots in the training that we design with clients, or lots of other ways to give people the chance to interact in a networking situation, both in person or online, all of those sorts of things, creating intentional modes and methods for people to learn beyond the training. And then the last thing I would say organizationally is that we can simply make it an expectation that we expect you to be learning from your peers. We're creating opportunities for you to learn from your peers at work, and get rid of the idea that training equals learning at work, right? That it's not just that or not just that alone. And what about personally? Like, how can we use peer learning as an individual? Forget the organizational piece, but just for you as an individual, for me as an individual. The first thing we can do is be more observant. Just pay closer attention. Once we realize or remember that there is learning opportunities all around us, we can take advantage of them by simply paying attention to how people do things and say, hey, I either want to do it like that or I want to avoid that. Secondly is to just be more intentional. Say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take opportunities to learn. Maybe it's in a time when I'm in a meeting and I don't know what my role is, or I'm a little bit disengaged, or I'm starting to be bored, to say, listen, where can I learn from someone in this moment? And lastly, to seek out people to learn from. Maybe there's someone on your team that you don't know well, but you know they have a skill set you don't have. Maybe most people would think about this as a mentoring situation. I'm going to seek out a mentor to help me learn something, which is a fabulous strategy, but we don't always equate that with the word peer. So we can think about finding mentors, finding people who know stuff that may just be our peer. They don't have to have a lot more experience or a lot more age or any of the things that we might otherwise associate with having a mentor. So we can be more observant, we can be more intentional, we can certainly reach out to people that we would love to learn from. Okay, so what have we talked about today? We said learning is way more than school, that we can learn so much from others around us, whether we call that social learning or peer learning. You already know it, but now you have some strategies that you can use to be more intentional in doing that more effectively, more often. Let me close with today's tweet. Learning from others is one of the best ways to learn. Are you maximizing your learning from peers and those around you? Well, another way that we can learn is through the magical tool of LinkedIn. And if you would like more ideas and insights and inspirations about being a more effective leader and team member and to further yourself personally and professionally, I hope that you'll choose to follow me on LinkedIn, where we post stuff regularly that can help you in just that way. The link here to follow me on LinkedIn can be found. I hope you'll do that, and hope you'll be back next week for another episode of Remarkable TV and the Remarkable Leadership Podcast.